Do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Yes, it does. Welcome in. It's the Daily Puck Drop. It is Tuesday, March 4th. Sorry, got to turn down the volume. Welcome in to the program here today. The Daily Puck Drop. We go live every day at 10 a.m. And whether you are watching on YouTube or Twitter or listening on the Puck Sports mobile app, that's right, folks. We got a mobile app. If you just want to listen on your phone or in the car, download the Puck Sports mobile app on the iOS store or Google Play, and you can listen to this fine program anywhere in the world. How about that? One-stop shop, all for you. So for the live crowd, if you don't know, all of this gets podcast later. I bet you didn't know that. So if you caught it late, said, oh, I want to go back and watch it, just go to YouTube. When you're at YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, and then also leave comments there. Try to answer as many as I possibly can. And then if you're like, I'm not really into the video. I don't need to look at that person's face. Appreciate you saying that. You can just listen to it. Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, someone said that's their preferred platform yesterday. I like the YouTube Music one. I've mentioned this many times before, not being paid by them. Although I can be paid by them, YouTube Music, if you'd like. Because you can go back and forth between the audio and the video. I love when I say audio. I always go, audio, like an idiot. All right, so you can go back and watch and listen to everything later. And then, of course, pucksports.com. There, sign up, become a Pucks Posse member, $5 a month. Get a discount for a year. You get all this free stuff we do at the Daily Puck Drop, free content, and all the guests, including our VIP and exclusive guests like Ryan Davis of the Seattle Times, who covers, of course, your Los Marineros. We give you a little free preview every week of it, but the full show is behind or just for Pucks Posse members. And Dane Brugler, who is covering the NFL draft with us from The Athletic. Episode 2 of a 7-part series with Dane is available right now. We're going to play you a cut coming up a little bit later, maybe after Danny Kelly, or hopefully maybe before Danny Kelly, just talking about the running back class. Yes, it's a loaded class. But we are in the Puck Sports Studios, built by our good friends right there at Limback Lumber Contractors. They got free deliveries. They got everything from whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects. The largest stock moldings in the Northwest. Old school service because they've been doing it since 1930. Give them a call at 206-782-3487. Visit them online at limbacklumber.com. One of the best, most trusted local companies, and just so happy and proud that they are part of Puck Sports, and hopefully they continue to be part of Puck Sports for as long as this little thing keeps going. All right, this little train keeps on trucking along. All right, what do we got coming up on the show? Real quick before we talk to Danny Kelly, coming up about 10:15 or so. We'll also talk to John Canzano, Johnny Cans, Bald-Faced Truth, coming up a little bit later in the program about all things college athletics, sports, Major League Baseball in Portland. That's a topic that's coming up again one more time. I want to get to Jorge Polanco in a quick second, and then also the Seahawks running back history, and give you some just intel on that one. Bob Condotta did a nice job today in the Seattle Times. In fact, I was doing something very similar, and then I saw his story. I'm like, oh, you son of a gun. Why did I do any work? And just go off what you did about the running back history under John Schneider. Let's first start with, let me sneak it in one more time. All right, King5sports.com, King5.com. If you want to watch what I really think is a masterpiece in television, interviewing skills and editing and storytelling. Chris Egan, Tate Miller, the hard-hitting 1-2 combo at King 5 Sports did a piece last week on the Ballard High School gymnastics team. Okay, and then I promise after this I'll shut up about it. All right, just let Dad have some moments here. And it's a really cool piece. What they did for all the girls. Again, it's just a really cool accomplishment, what they did to become the first Seattle public school to win a state title in gymnastics. And I think Chris and Tate did a great job of kind of capturing specifically what the seniors of that team meant. So, all right, I have a teenage daughter who's very sick of me watching it over and over again. All right, I get it. I'll be done. All right, I want to get into Jorge Polanco. In reading Divish's piece, and we'll have Divish on tomorrow, right? Tomorrow's Wednesday? We'll have Divish on tomorrow to talk about it. And here's the one concern I would have. Well, I got many concerns about Jorge Polanco, like probably many of you have concerns about Jorge Polanco. But the fact is that he hasn't done any infield workouts yet. The season starts in like 20 days, 23 days. And you're going to say, oh, he's a veteran. Don't worry about it. But you got to understand a guy that has a surgically repaired knee, which again, at his age, whatever his offseason was, I know that he's talked about his legs and being stronger and that he's hitting the ball hard. All great things. No one's going to know what that knee is like until he gets off and starts running. And then specifically has to run, move laterally, charge a ball, plant his foot, and throw, playing third base. One of the great, storylines and I guess issues, this offseason was, the lack of moves, obviously, that they made. And again, we can beat that into the ground. But the fact is they went back to him. Okay, you went back to him. But then you've decided to bring Polanco back and then play him at a position that he never played. It has very limited time ever playing. And the fact is that we are into spring training now. Well, I don't know, what is this week? Are we in week 3 now? And he hasn't done anything. Again, he's a veteran. Maybe he'll pick it up fast. Maybe he'll be fine. And, of course, he's doing things to work on fielding the ball at third base. But for a guy that, watching him last year, had a number of issues of fielding the ball and throwing from second base to first, I think one would have a growing concern is, can he field the ball at third and then make that throw? Which, again, last time, getting in my ear, yes, last time I checked, a longer throw, by the way. So I think the concern of him not getting reps yet, maybe it starts, later this week. Maybe it's next week, and then he ramps it up and is fine. But I think it's just something to monitor right now. And I know they're being cautious with the knee and the surgically repaired knee. But again, to not have any reps yet in spring training, playing in the infield, doing anything of that nature, yeah, that's a concern. Because here's the thing with this team this year. There's just a lot of what ifs. And I think they would acknowledge that. Maybe they would not acknowledge that publicly, but privately they have to. A lot of what ifs. It's a what if at DH. And I know Garver's had a great offseason or great spring training so far. That's great. It's a what if at first base. Who knows? Who knows if that's going to work full time? It's clearly a what if at second base because Dylan Moore, again, Gold Glove, but moving a bunch of different positions around. And I think the one thing that you find with Dylan Moore, and this should not be a negative, by the way, but it comes off as being a negative because guys are great in certain roles, and he's great in a role in which he can bounce around and play different positions, spot start here and there. The problem with someone like Dylan Moore, and again, it's vital to have a Dylan Moore on your team, but when he gets more ABs and he gets more playing time, he gets exposed. Players like him will get exposed, and he got exposed last year. He played more. But that's a what if. I don't know. Then what's the option? Ryan Bliss. And clearly he's a what if at third base. And there's a massive what if at shortstop. I mean, J.P. Crawford is coming off just a really, really bad year. Awful year. And can he capture, the 1 year that he had a few years ago? That's a huge storyline moving forward for J.P. And I know help is on the way, by the way, with all the young infielders they have. So his spot there is slowly melting away of his grasp there at the shortstop position. But, those guys are still young, and they're going to need him to have, again, we talk about Julio all the time. They're going to need J.P. Crawford to have a massive bounce-back season. I think in the outfield, I'm not concerned in the outfield. I think there was flashes from Rosarina. I'm a fan. I know others aren't. Robles, I don't think he's going to play as well as he did. There's no way they expected to play as well as he did. But the Jorge Polanco was a concern going into spring training because of the injury. We talked about it right away that I just thought that people thought he was going to be healthy, 100% ready to go. That was never going to be the case coming off an offseason knee surgery. And then the fact that he hasn't done anything yet, I just think is something to monitor as we get closer to the season. March 27th, they're coming up on opening day, which, by the way, opening day will be the 1-year anniversary of Puck Sports. How about that, huh? Give yourselves a hand, because it's you who have made this possible. Not me. I'm a putz. I just turn the microphone on, make 0 cents, and then hopefully people watch and listen. But it's you, because if you didn't watch or you didn't listen, then there's no way we would make it to a year. And we're going to make it to a year, which is I'm just deeply proud of. Were there times that I didn't think we'd make it to a year? You're damn right. But we did. So I'm super excited about that. And thank you, because you are the number one reason why we've been able to make it a year. And then also the sponsors, Limbeck Lumber, Georgetown Beer, Flat Stick, Cougar Collective, Superior Linen Service. I mean, I go through all of them. Zeke's Pizza, Fat Zach's, Restoration One, big one, Restoration One. I'm missing people. I know I am. Hartley and Hartley Insurance, Zogs on Fox Island. Just kind of Chalet Bowl. I feel like this is an Oscar speech now. I'm going to miss people. I know I've missed somebody, and someone remind me who I've missed. But thank you to everyone. All right, Dane Brugler, who we record every week, part of the Pucks Posse membership. Again, $5 a month, and you get a discount if you sign up for a year. Episode 2 came out yesterday of a 7-part series, our NFL Draft Countdown series with Dane Brugler, who is the author of The Beast, which I believe it's the single best draft guide that you can possibly own. And by the way, it's free if you have an athletic subscription. It should come out, what did Dane say? Maybe first week of April or last week of March. And I'm telling you, it's the size of a Bible, and he has a bio and all this information on every single one of these draft eligible players. But, one thing we got into the discussion yesterday in terms of with Dane, and by the way, we tried to play the 5-minute preview yesterday. Something happened here on the old stream here that didn't work, but we'll try to get that back up so people can watch it. It is up on YouTube, by the way. It's about 6 minutes of the free preview talking about the offensive line. So if you want to go check it out, you get the free one there, and then the full 25-minute one you can, if you sign up, you can watch or listen to that whole thing. But we got to talking about the running back class, and one would say, hey, I don't really think the Seahawks are in the market for a running back. I certainly tend to agree. They got 3 good running backs, I think, as long as Walker can stay healthy. Charbonnet showed some flashes. I love what I saw of Kenny McIntosh at the end of the year. So you're right. It is true that they are not in the market for a running back class. But this is a class that is deep and talented, as Dane Brugler pointed out yesterday.
Love this running back group. And I don't care what you want out of your running back. There's something for you in this class. Whether, power, speed, breaking tackles, vision, like no matter what trait you prioritize at the position, there will be something for you in this class. And a lot of these guys tested out extremely well. Like I said, there's going to be 3, 4, 5 running backs drafted every single round almost. And I wouldn't be surprised if some teams double up at the position. It's just that loaded this year. And a lot of those guys, if you didn't know anything about this running back class coming into the combine, I think after watching them work out, you're like, okay, I get it. This has to be one of the better positions in the draft.
And again, that full podcast that we do with Dane Brugler, again, episode 2 came out yesterday for Pucks Posse members. Sign up today, $5 a month, and you get the full 25 minutes there with Dane, not only just breaking down the running backs, but we did a good chunk of it also in breaking down the offensive line. And offensive linemen, specifically interior offensive linemen, that will fit what the Seahawks want to do. And one guy in particular, the Great Zabel, we'll get into that with Danny Kelly here momentarily. They're from The Ringer. But again, full episode, Dane Brugler talking about the running backs, a little portion of it in there. Also about the quarterbacks. Again, I don't think they're going to draft a running back. there's not a priority for him because of Walker and Charbonnet and McIntosh. But I would just keep in mind with Walker, he is going to go in his final year of his contract. They can extend him if they want to. It has been a position for John Schneider in which he drafts pretty heavily. 5 drafts where Schneider has not drafted a running back. There's only 5. He's drafted 5 running backs in the past 5 drafts, so the only one 10, 11, 15, 21. And last year was the only time he didn't select a back. And multiple drafts where he has selected 2 backs. So if he's enamored by it and they want to get back to running the football and being more aggressive on the ground, I think I'm saying both things. I said I don't think they're going to do it. Now I'm going to say they are going to do it. I wouldn't be surprised. God, that's really the old sports radio trick, huh? You cover both sides of your ass right there. But the reason that being so deep and so talented, and I think the situation with Walker's contract, and then I also think that, he hasn't been able to stay healthy, and I think that's part of it. Might be too. Dane said in there he expects, what did he say? At least 3 to 4 running backs every round to be taken. Past the first round, I think is what he said, which is crazy depth. All right, let's get to it. Our combine coverage, our post-combine coverage coming up right now here with Danny Kelly. But first, a word from Georgetown Brewery.
Drink Georgetown Tavern Beer, your new locally brewed domestic-style lager. 4.2% alcohol, cheap, good, local.
That's right. That describes me, really. Cheap and local. That's me. And Danny Kelly, he's local as well. Danny Kelly from The Ringer. You can follow him on Twitter at Danny B. Kelly. Also on Blue Sky, senior staff writer. The Ringer NFL show. Are we calling it the NFL Draft Show or the NFL Show now?
The Ringer NFL Draft Show.
Okay, that's right.
We've changed over. Yes, we were the fantasy show during the regular season, right. But now we do the draft.
Ringer NFL Draft Show, and he's with us. I listened to a good portion of your combine recap this morning. What I really liked more than anything was the Oscar segment.
Yes.
And Adrian Brody, that was the fucking longest acceptance speech in the history of the Academy Awards. I mean, it was so long, I was uncomfortable, and I walked away. Shut up. Shut up about the process. God, I hate when they get into the process. And, you're fucking an actor. You get paid to be a fictional character. Shut up.
You're here to entertain us.
God. They act so much is that they're the self-importance of them. Like they're doing something. Oh, you should be thanking us for what we do. Shut up.
I'm an artiste. Yeah.
And what was the name of his kids? I don't want to take a shot at the kids.
I don't know.
God, they had some weird names. I'm like, what the hell's that?
I can't comment on that. I don't know.
The best acceptance speech was the girl that won the woman that won the best actress. She was great for Amora or Honora.
Yeah.
She was fabulous.
Mikey.
Yeah. She was great. Crying, talking about, hey, I grew up here and my parents used to take me to theater. That was heartfelt. She didn't talk about the process.
Well, I wish I could comment. I didn't actually watch the Oscars.
Yeah.
Craig went for us. So
yeah. He was. I liked Craig's take on all things Oscars. It was fabulous. But go check it out. Where can everyone find the NFL Draft Show from?
You can check that out on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Also on YouTube, you can watch the show on Spotify now. We're video on platform, which is pretty sweet. So if you're into watching podcasts, as you probably are if you're watching this, go check it out. It's on Spotify now.
I know I should not say this, what I'm about to say. I'm surprised that people watch.
It's a generational thing, Puck. I don't know.
Weird.
Not a lot of people I think our age do it, but
yeah, man,
the kids these days, they love to throw a podcast on their TV, just like in the background, I think, for the most part. I don't know. I understand it. It's like you get to see the people that are talking, you get to see their expressions, the way that they interact. I get it, but I don't do it either. It's one of those things where I don't understand it really, but I understand. I get it, but I don't do it.
It's something I've had, this last year had to learn. And it surprised me how much people do it and
it's
how
huge.
popular YouTube is for this. And I'm like,
YouTube's massive.
Like,
Yeah.
why? But then, I mean, to your point, I get it. Who doesn't want to look at two handsome people like us?
I know. We have faces for radio. So
we do. We do. All right, wrap it up. What did you think of the combine? What were your main takeaways, kind of surprises? Or
the combine was good. A lot of good athletes at the skill position players. People are just getting faster and faster, I feel like. The training, I guess, is probably getting a lot better. The weight programs, people getting into these weight programs earlier in their life. I don't know about you, but I didn't really start lifting weights until I was in college.
I don't think I've started.
Kids these days are like lifting weights when they're in 7th grade.
Yeah.
And doing plyometrics and things of that nature. I was running around with. Do you remember those jump sole shoes? It was like they were on Seinfeld for an
of course to build up your calves. So you can dunk.
I was doing that. I was doing that in high school.
Everybody in my school was doing that. We looked like a bunch of idiots walking around on our tippy toes.
Yeah. I don't know if those things actually worked.
I don't think they did.
A little bit dubious about that. I feel like
I can't touch the net, Danny. So they didn't work.
They didn't work long term. But I thought, the very impressive performances from the people that did run. I will say it feels like every year more and more players are just purely opting out of the combine. They're like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. You don't have to run or do anything here. That's great. I'm going to do that. Feels like more and more players are doing that. And it's good advice.
Do you like that they opt out?
I mean, not for me. It sucks for us because we're there to cover the game or cover the, the testing and cover all the best athletes. And they Ashton Genty, Travis Hunter, Shedduer, Ward. None of these guys are doing anything at the combine other than meeting with teams, which I'm not at those meetings. So it doesn't really help me.
Just do that a different time.
So for content, it's not great. I do understand from their point of view why they would do it, like especially these big name guys, because you just really only can hurt yourself at that point. It feels like where if you're less athletic or, you mess up on some of these drills and you really, there's a chance you can tank your value a little bit. Whereas, going there and then waiting until your pro day when you have all your own players around you, you have the guys on stopwatches rather than laser timing it. You're on your own track, you're in your home field, you kind of just are more comfortable. You don't have to be. And the other thing is, like at the combine, these guys are running around for 4 days straight, doing crazy amounts of things and being very stressed and being very tired and not eating the food that they normally eat. Mm-hmm. It's a really hard situation for them to then go out. And now that they've moved the testing back even later in the day, like go out in the evening and do these tests. I understand, why agents are advising their players to basically just say, look, we're going to wait till the pro day.
But I think part of the reason why some would have an issue with like whoever would opt out not to do anything, but really it's the quarterbacks that get the most attention.
Yeah.
Is you want to see someone like Cam Ward and Shedduer Sanders throw in uncomfortable scenarios.
Right.
Without their own they're not going to have their own wide receivers when they go to the NFL.
Right.
They're going to run a different system. So it's not so much about, oh my God, was that pass high or was that pass low? How are you as a leader? Because that's what you are. You are the leader of the football team as the quarterback. How are you going to adjust and deal with new people and different crazy scenarios? And I think that is the one area where I know there's one side of people saying, oh, we blow it out of proportion that so-and-so didn't throw at the combine. I would disagree with that. I think I would always advise these guys to do it. And regardless of what the result is, it's about how does that person carry themselves as a leader in front of everyone else.
Right. And it's like, you're on the field, you're doing these drills. And I think the quarterbacks are working out with the running backs and receivers. So it's how do they command the huddle? How are they interacting with the guys? Like, do they immediately command respect? Are they leader type players? Or are they kind of just quiet and going through the motions? There's a lot of things to be gleaned. And I think, that's stuff that the teams have looked at for years. Excuse me. And now you don't really get that as much anymore. And you have guys opting out of the Senior Bowl, opting out of the bowl game. So it's like, it feels like a sterilized version of what it used to be. I know that players have been opting out forever. It's not like this is brand new, but it just feels like the number of players that opt out of these things is improved has increased over the last couple of years.
Especially when you're making that decision on that position in general.
Right.
Because it's unlike any other position in the NFL. I mean, that can cripple your franchise when you don't get it right.
Right.
It just absolutely
sets you back years. Yeah.
Of course because you make a first round investment, especially high, you have to give that player what's the minimum? 3 years, 4 years before you make the call, whether it didn't work out?
Ideally, yeah.
I mean, think about that. And so,
and then also on top of that, if you miss on a quarterback, the coach is probably gone. So then you're resetting your coaching staff,
and the GM is maybe gone.
So you're going through all this, employee turnover. It's you're really remaking the team if you really f up this if you f up this pick, and so there's a massive amount of implications.
It's like the Giants, right? If the Giants, which has been kind of like now widely reported by everyone, if the Giants get their wish and let's say move up and select Cam Ward at number 1, if Cam Ward doesn't work out, well, then that GM is gone.
Yep.
Head coach is gone. And then now Cam Ward is in a situation where he goes to a different staff again, early in his career, because they're going to take him. If they take him number 1, they're playing him right away.
Right.
So what if he's terrible? And then they're like, well, let's pull the plug on Dayball and who's the Schoen or Shane or whatever.
Shane, yeah.
Shane. They pull the plug on him. And now he goes to a different coaching staff who has a different vision. And then it's just like, well,
maybe they didn't like him. Maybe they didn't want him.
Right.
Maybe they don't think he's that good.
Yeah.
It's
a tough scenario. And then
yeah.
I know how, I've thought about how I'm going to articulate this because I know how it's going to sound coming out of my mouth.
Okay.
And so I'm going to soften the blow by saying this first. I thought, and you know how I feel about Cam Ward. I thought Cam Ward in the interviews and like the podium sounded and looked great to me. And honestly, I did not like how Shedduer Sanders looked and sounded.
Right.
Could not stand it.
Yeah.
And I know how it's going to come across. It's the Colin Coward. Oh, he's got his hat backwards look, and you can't trust the guy. I know, old 49-year-old white guy, how it's going to be perceived.
Right. Exactly.
But honestly, I watched it and thought, no, I'm out. I don't want the leader of my team kind of acting like that up there.
Yeah.
And I know that's so stupid. It's a press conference, but there's a lot that goes into it. And that shouldn't affect his play on the field. I guess I would phrase it this way, Danny. If I were an owner who makes the kind of the decisions on, especially a quarterback this high, I would look at that. And if I was on the fence with him, I'd go,
gives you pause. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's tough because obviously, like you said, there are a lot of, implications for saying that kind of thing.
Sure.
There's
a lot of racial implications to
right.
it. I'm not trying to take, I honestly am not trying to take it there.
I know.
If it was Will Howard or somebody else was a topic and they're kind of acted like
say
that
it's
up
Ryan
there,
Leaf, for instance.
Ryan Leaf, yeah, perfect. Ryan Leaf. I'd say the same thing. I honestly would. And
I get
Sanders.
that. I think it's important that like we use that caveat that you're aware of the implications, that type of thing. But I will say, like, that was a common refrain that I heard at the combine from people, is like basically, and again, I'm not in these meetings. I don't have a first person knowledge of it, but there's whispers at the combine, like he wasn't doing so great in his interviews. Like some teams didn't necessarily like, and it's like one of those things. It's a double-edged sword because you want your quarterback to be really confident, but maybe he was borderline cocky or whatever. It's however these teams are interpreting how he is and his personality. It felt like he was one of the losers at the combine in terms of just like going in. People are like, oh, he's going to be a top 5 pick. Coming out, it's like, he could fall a little bit. That's kind of the impression right now. That could change over the next couple of months.
Because I'm with you. You want any person like that, any quarterback, whoever, right, to have this supreme confidence in oneself. And he does. There is this borderline of cockiness and arrogance,
right?
That you can cross, and I know that those lines are gray and they can be blurred. I just not, I don't know. The body language, it just was, it was off-putting to me.
Yeah.
And again, when I watch him play, and we've said it on with you and others, when I watch him play, like I really like watching him play football. And I always reference the one game, and I've said it a million times, when they played Kansas State this year, and he's down, like Hunter gets hurt, his other top wide receiver gets hurt. I know he takes a lot of sacks and hits him. He's getting the shit kicked out of him, like all game long. And he stays in the pocket, delivering passes, and played one of his best games. They ended up losing the game, but he was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I thought coming out of that kind of proved a lot. If he had any question marks, maybe about his skill set or how tough he was.
I think the fact that he went into college and elevated 2 different programs, obviously, you know, Dion is helping in that matter, in that too, because of his, you know, recruiting and everything like that. But at the same time, like, this is a quarterback driven sport, and he was elevating these teams, making them competitive when they had been not on the radar at all. So, you know, I think, yeah, his toughness, his poise, his polish, and, you know, his accuracy are things that I look to, and I'm like, I believe in him in the pros. But at the same time, yeah, I think generally speaking, there was kind of that. It felt like that was the opinion shared by a couple of different people that I talked to at the combine. That was like, I don't know, like if the personality, it's just kind of like, you know, it didn't really like strike confidence into people or whatever, however you want to put it.
Did Will Howard hurt himself? I mean, because he goes out there and then now it's for everyone to see. And Will Howard was getting a little bit of buzz, like especially after the, you know, college football championship. And then he goes out there and I mean, listen, it was awful.
Just missing guys.
It just was, I mean, all over the place. And so then I wonder, Danny, like, how do you balance that? Because again, he is throwing to people that, I applaud him for doing it.
And I mean, you also could say, hey, at least he went out and threw.
At least he went out and did it. And I would always put more stock in what he did on the field. But I guess, again, if you were on that fence with Will Howard, you'd go, yeah.
I would say this, like, he probably didn't help himself a ton by doing that. But there's the pro day circuit, which will people tend to like remember the last thing they saw versus, you know, and so if he has a good pro day, which I'm sure he will, because he's going to be, you know, with some good receivers in a scripted environment, all that. It's one of those things where I'm sure it's not necessarily like putting a good taste in your mouth, but at the same time, this is not everything. Like he the way he played during the college football playoffs, I think, you know, is much more important than what he was doing. And I think we have to be careful to do this both ways, because if he's impressive throwing in his shorts and shirt against no defenders, we should probably not put much stock in that. And at the same time, like you said, he's throwing to all these guys. He doesn't have any chemistry with them. And again, it's like, this is not a real football environment. Mm-hmm. I feel like it shouldn't matter either way too much. In other words, we shouldn't overreact to these workouts. And honestly, I don't even really care how much. I don't really care like that much about these throwing things. Yeah. I think it's like, honestly, it's less about, oh, did he connect on all the 37 of his passes? That I don't give a shit. I don't look at the completion percentage of when they're playing catch. What I do look at is, how does he look like size-wise, arm strength, throwing off platform, his ability to make throws, you know, that kind of thing. And like we talked about earlier, like, what's he like with all the other guys? Mm-hmm. Does he command respect? Does he command attention? Is he a leader? Those things are much more important, I think, than his completion percentage against air while they're playing catch with some random dudes. You know what I mean? So I think he's probably still going to be one of those like late day 2, maybe early day 3 guys where I comped him. He reminded me when I was watching him during the college football playoff to like a Matt Hasselbeck type of guy. I think Hasselbeck was a 6th rounder, came in and developed and ended up being a starter. And he was like a pretty good starter, like a league average starter. Maybe you could say even better. And it wouldn't surprise me, really. There's that expression. It wouldn't surprise me if he ended up being a starter in the league. You know,
wouldn't surprise me is right in the same categories I'm hearing.
Yeah, right. There's whispers of the combine.
I'm hearing.
I'm not committing to anything.
You don't want to. You dip your toe a little bit in the water, but not. You can't force yourself to go all the way in. All right. Do you think, based on what you saw with this running back class, and you probably heard me right before you came on.
Yep.
Do you think the Seahawks dip their toes in that? I mean, it is deep and talented. They don't necessarily need it.
Yeah, they probably will. Yeah, they probably will. John Schneider is a former running back. I think this gets underplayed.
I guess I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe like a fullback running back. He didn't get like, you know, he wasn't like a pro or anything. But I think like his history is he knows the running back position because that's like what he played. Remember? Because I remember Pete Carroll back in the day was a safety, I want to say, when he played. So he like understands the safety position a little bit more than you know, other positions or whatever.
John was a running back, like John Riggins.
John Schneider was a, I don't know, high school running back.
I think he played in college.
Yeah. I need to look this up now, but
Man, now you got me intrigued.
He mentioned
now I want to know what he saw in Kristen Michael.
athleticism, explosiveness. What we all saw. I think he was just kind
of
a doofus, but
he was intriguing. For sure.
But yeah, getting back to the question, I do think they could dip their toe in it. I think this is the type of team they always take running backs. They like having running backs. They like having the depth there. Running backs get hurt a lot. It's a common thing for running backs to get banged up. Kenneth Walker has been especially a little bit frustrating from that point of view. Like the core muscle injury stuff. It's kind of like a back injury. It's like you never used to have a bad back. You always just, if you have a bad back, you have a bad back forever.
Yes, exactly.
And I think there's a chance like Kenneth Walker just has, core muscle
just not consistent.
Issues.
It's not consistent on the
field. Like I had a buddy who played college football and he tore his groin, and he's like, this was 20 years ago and he still has a bad groin. Like, it's like one of those things you just don't get over that. It doesn't go away. And I'm worried that this is the same deal with like a core muscle injury where it's just like, it just doesn't ever get fully better, or you may be just susceptible to that injury for the rest of your life. That being said, yeah, this is a good class to do it. There's going to be day 3 guys. I think that could be contributors. And maybe, hopefully the Seahawks don't take a second round running back again, unless they plan on getting rid of Kenneth Walker or
but I mean, when you start looking at like some of the rankings of these guys where when you get a Damian Martinez that is, down on that list pretty far when we start talking about running backs. I mean, God, maybe I fall in love with Damian Martinez because I saw him at Oregon State so much, but and I don't think he had necessarily a down year at Miami, but man, he's explosive. I mean, just the type of running back that would seem to me would thrive in the NFL. And the other guy that at least I saw a few times was Taj Brooks at Texas Tech. Real good running back.
Man, there are so many guys in this class. I could like rattle off probably like 10 players that I really like. RJ Harvey from UCF, Devin Neal, Kansas, Dylan Sampson, Tennessee, Cam Scatabo.
Yeah.
Scatabo.
I can't remember. Is it Scatabo or Scatabo?
I think it's Scatabo.
I can't. Every time I say it, I can't remember how you pronounce it.
I'll look into that. I believe it's Scatabo.
And then does this surprise you that on mock drafts or big boards, tell me why Travion Henderson isn't like right behind Ashton Genty?
I'm a Travion Henderson like believer or whatever. I'm a kind of like a stan, if you will.
He's so
he's so explosive, man. He was the second fastest in terms of top speed. This is a new thing that they're doing at the NFL.com. They have the combine IQ thing. It's pretty cool, and they actually measure your top speed in terms of miles per hour when you're running the 40. And he was second fastest. He's got some juice, in other words, and I really like him because he's a complete back. He has incredible speed. I think he's got pretty good vision. He's a really good pass blocker. He's good in the passing game. There's, guys like Amarian Hampton, I think are like more physical and are going to break more tackles than him, which is, I think, very apparent. But it just depends on kind of what you want. I heard you talking to Dane earlier. What he said was basically like, whatever you want, there is that guy in this class. There's so many different types of flavors of running back in terms of like what you're looking for, that you can get some of these guys on day 3, like Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State. He might go day 3. He's really big, physical, fast runner. Trevor Etienne, more of like a pass catching type of player. He might be a day 3 guy. I don't know how early these guys are going to go, but I think there's probably like a good 15 running backs that could end up being like contributors on their teams, maybe more.
What about an Ollie Gordon? I mean, he kind of like, there's a little bit of flashes of a Chris Carson with an Ollie Gordon.
Totally. I saw James Conner, Chris Carson type of guy, like big, physical.
Crazy.
Jordan James from Oregon, not getting a lot of hype, but he's good. Bishal Tootin from Virginia Tech ran like
great
a
name.
4.3. Bishal Tootin. I mean, there's just like Quinshon Judkins. We haven't even talked about him. He might be a day 2 guy who he maybe even deserves to be a first rounder. He's that good. You mentioned Davion Martinez. He just kind of feels Seahawky to me. But yeah, there's a ton of dudes here, and we're not even talking about like, there's probably a list of like 20 guys that could go. Before the 4th round.
I think he said, and I want to go back and listen. I think Dane Brugler said, maybe if he got out of the 1st round, he expects 3 to 4 every round.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Just like that's just loaded. All right,
teams are going to load up on them this year. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you kind of feel last year that it was just like this changing, going like shifting back to like we got to run the ball a little bit more. We've gotten into this real pass happy league. Now we gotta correct ourselves a little bit. All right, before you go, give me your take on the offensive line when you watch these guys go through the drills and saw them up close. From an interior offensive line position, I know Gray Zabel's getting a lot of chatter. Dane and I talked about that a lot yesterday. He just feels like this is, for this zone blocking scheme the Seahawks want to do, this is the perfect fit for it. Not only can he play guard, but he can play center. What was your takeaway with him and some other guys on that interior offensive line?
I still have to dig into the tape, honestly, on all the combine offensive linemen, but I think, like, generally speaking, the impression is that these guys move really well. I think one of the big stories of this class and one of like the things to watch is that there's a lot of like tackles, like guys that are listed as tackles that are going to end up being guards in the NFL and vice versa. Like there might be some ability for these guys to play two different positions. Donovan Jackson from Ohio State, really athletic. The pipe dream now, I think, is going to be Armand Membu from Missouri, who I think is now like maybe solidified himself as a top 10 player. Whereas I was like mocking him to the Seahawks and feeling pretty good about that before the combine. He ran like a 4.9, super athletic, really light feet, super consistent. He might end up being, honestly, the first tackle taken. And he's another guy that's able to play guard if you want. Josh Simmons from Ohio State, he didn't test, but really light feet, really good balance. Kelvin Banks from Texas, I think, did pretty well in terms of his testing. Yeah. Tyler Booker is one that now he was so bad as a tester that he might fall into the second round. I think that's an interesting one to watch.
Yeah, like, oh my God, you can't take him. Dane said, yeah, he did not have a good workout this weekend, but he also said going into it, I don't think he's a good fit for what Seattle wants to do.
Oh, interesting. Not enough movement skills. Because the Seahawks, I think I'm kind of thinking of the Seahawks from last year. They're probably going to like a wide zone type of deal here with Clint Kubiak. So that does make sense. I think Donovan Jackson's a name you should watch.
Okay.
He played left tackle for Ohio State this year when Simmons went out with a knee injury, and he like held his own out on the edge. I don't think he should be a tackle in the NFL personally, but a really athletic, light-footed, consistent guard. I think he's a guy that maybe late first, early second. And I'm just looking through my list of offensive linemen. There's a ton. You mentioned Gray Zabel. He played tackle in college, but I think he's been playing like interior, maybe even a center this year. Cameron Williams from Texas, Aranti Ursary from Minnesota. He tested like through the roof. He was really athletic. Jonah Savanea from Arizona, Marcus Mbo from Purdue. I just go down the list. There's a ton of guys I could see the Seahawks. These two guys from Georgia, Tate Ratledge and Jared Wilson, were two of the most athletic interior linemen ever, according to RAS, the relative athletic score. So I could see the Seahawks being interested in them. There's just a ton of guys. Again, this is like a meat and potatoes draft. I've said it over and over, but it's basically like defensive line, offensive line, running backs. It's like all the grit positions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a grit draft.
Next week, let's discuss the position that they shouldn't draft, but John Schneider will draft. Let's do that next week, okay?
Sure. That sounds good.
All right, Danny, you're the best. I'll talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good, man.
There he is, Danny B. Kelly. Follow him there on Twitter and Blue Sky. And again, check out all of his work up on the Ringer, senior staff writer. They got the Ringer fantasy football show that he does, but also the Ringer NFL draft show. And our NFL draft coverage brought to you by Georgetown Brewery. Check out their new Tavern Beer, easy drinking domestic style lager made with Pacific Northwest barley and Yakima Valley hops. 4.2% brewed by our good friends at Georgetown Brewery, makers, of course, of Manny's Pale Ale, Bodie's Alpha IPA, and, of course, Rogers Pilsner. We go from beer to pizza. He joins us every single week. We're just carb loading on a Tuesday. It's John Canzano from johncanzano.com, host of The Bald Faced Truth down there in Portland, Oregon. His weekly appearance brought to you by Zeke's Pizza. Go check him out, zekespizza.com, for the best homegrown Northwest pizza. Do you have carb days where you like to load up? I like to load up every single day.
No, but I work out just so I can eat bad. Like, is that a good philosophy or no?
I think that's probably a wonderful philosophy. Yeah. I eat bad and don't work out. How's that?
There's that too. I mean, you got it half right. So I think I think that you have to have balance. These people who are like, I have a cheat day or whatnot. Come on.
Yeah. Cheat
Like,
meal.
the whole purpose of being in that gym or breaking a sweat or going for a walk or whatever is so you get a little balance in your life. So I'm okay with that. By the way, Cam Scataboo, like
Doesn't
Halloween.
Matter. Is it
Just think
Scataboo?
Halloween.
It's not Scataboo.
Scataboo.
Scataboo. I'm gonna forget it next week.
No, you'll
Scataboo.
remember it because it's like it's peekaboo. Okay.
There you go. A little peekaboo. How do you think old Cam Scataboo is gonna do in the NFL?
Interesting player. I think he's one of these guys that if he gets in the right situation with somebody who knows how to use him, I think he'll be fine. But I think he could be obviously he's a football player, and I think he could be a little tight end. I think he could be a little H-back. I think he could be a runner at times. He could be a blocker at times. He's got that physicality, but guy's a good athlete, not betting against him. I think he will make a roster, but I think if he gets in the right situation, Puck, I think he could stick and have a really interesting role. And, I see a player like that. It depends where you get him, but you put him with the 49ers or somebody like that who know how to get creative with a player, man, they could have some fun with that guy.
Yeah. I was going through your Monday mailbag, and again, you can always throw John a question on the Monday mailbag. He starts soliciting Sunday night, and then he answers the best ones. I did like the person that wants you to start doing like self-help, life like advice. A Dear Abby. I think you should do that.
Yeah. I was in Phoenix one time, and I saw this billboard for a life coach, and I immediately wanted to do like deep investigation on this person. Like, what is this person got their stuff together?
That's what I think about with therapists.
Yeah.
Like, what makes you so qualified to be a therapist? How shitty is your life? Who's your therapist? And if you're a therapist who has a therapist, why would I go see you?
Right.
I don't know.
The worst one yet is the friend who doesn't want to do therapy but uses you as the pseudo therapist because they're just sucking your time and your energy. Again, balance in your life, people. Come on.
I don't think you should talk about Wilner in front of the audience like that. Here's the best you want to know the best therapist in the world?
Yeah.
Your local dive bar bartender.
Could be.
And I'm not saying you got to go sit there and drink. Don't even have to drink. Just go have a club soda.
Yeah.
I don't care what dive bar you go to. That bartender that's been at that dive bar forever has more knowledge than any therapist is going to pay money for.
I want to. You want a hitting coach who hit like 257 in the big leagues and had to work through some things. So I just want somebody who's lived a little life, got some gray hair or no hair. As I said, I'm happy to give life advice and life coaching. I'm not always diplomatic. I got a neighbor that won't talk to me because a fence situation. But it's not for lack of trying.
I know people here for college, like, we need an update on the Pac-12 media rights and expansion, but you got me thinking about something. You just kind of brought it up there about hitting coaches, and I've always thought about this. I think I know what the answer is. At least I have an idea what the answer is. Why do the bench players, or why do the guys that really were not stars in whatever league always make the best coaches? And why do the superstars not make the best coaches?
Well, a lot of it came natural to the superstars. I mean, when I was covering Major League Baseball, I was covering Barry Bonds, right? And you have these conversations at lockers with guys that were hitting 300 and all-stars. And you just got the impression it came very naturally to them. Bill Madlock was a guy who comes to mind. I think he was a 305 hitter in his career. And I asked him one time, I said, when you're going to the plate, are you looking pitch and location? Because, I played low-level college baseball. When I got to the plate, and I still think about this to this day, I felt at times overmatched. And you're guessing a little bit, or you're looking for a pitch in a spot, and you're waiting for that pitch, and you're not swinging if he throws you a breaking ball, if you're looking for a fastball in the inside part of the plate. And I asked Madlock, I said, what were you looking for when you got to the plate? He hit 305 in his career. And he said, I wasn't. He goes, I wasn't thinking about it. I just got up there and I saw a pitch. I swung at it. Like it's just very natural. See ball, hit ball. Al Oliver had a very similar take on that. Barry Bonds talks about catching the ball with his bat. It's such a simple thing. He said, it didn't matter how hard you threw. I'm just trying to catch the ball with the bat. So I think the greats, Ted Williams, others, had a hard time teaching it because a lot of it did come naturally to them, and the game was very slow for them. The guys like Bob Brenly and Joe Torre, those guys had to labor. They had to work through a 20-game hitting slump. They felt overmatched at the plate. And a lot of times those guys that sat in the dugout studying the game, not just their position. They were thinking situationally about the game. Catchers are great because what? They see the whole field. They know pitching a little bit. They know hitting. I think that comes up over and over in a lot of sports that, the best players. Michael Jordan, is he a great executive in the league? Would he be a great coach? No. I mean, because he'd be like, just dominate that guy in front of you. That's his coaching advice.
It's interesting. When I think about the NBA, the only player that ever stands out to me that I saw that was a really good coach and was an all-time great player was Larry Bird. He's the only one I can think of. And maybe there's other examples, but he was the only one that was really, I don't know. I'm just curious why it worked for him. Maybe he felt that he had to always work when he was younger and maybe it didn't come natural to him.
Maybe a lot of his game was developmental. I mean, look, he wasn't playing above the rim. That wasn't his thing. He was his footwork was masterful. His shot was amazing. And
great.
But more often you see Phil Jackson or Steve Kerr, right? And you don't necessarily see a guy who's a Hall of Fame player going in and dominating as a coach.
Have we had someone in the NFL that was a great player that turned out to be a great coach?
Yeah, I mean, in the NFL, you've got guys that didn't play or barely played. College football, you got guys that didn't play. You got more Kenny Dillinghams and Mike Leaches out there that, were just they were never going to be the best player on their team.
Yeah. All right. I know people are like, can you get to the meat?
Yeah, let's get to the meat.
I'm sorry. Mountain West and Pac-12 litigation.
Yeah.
Where are we at with this? Trying to settle this this lawsuit before even a judge sees it.
It's fascinating, and it's really an interesting peek into what I'm doing. Is because I talk to a lot of presidents. I talk to people at the conference level. I talk to coaches, athletic directors, deputy ADs. I'm talking to people. What I have found in the last few months with the Pac-12 and the Mountain West is, the commissioners are being very careful about what they say. The athletic directors and presidents are trying to be careful because everybody knows there's litigation and nobody wants to say anything publicly on the record that's going to come back on a deposition if this goes to court. The Mountain West reached out to the Pac-12. And I know this, I got it confirmed from both sides. The Mountain West reached out to the Pac-12, the attorneys for the Mountain West, rather, reached out to the attorneys for the Pac-12 at like $1,000 an hour and said, hey, we'd like to mediate. And the Pac-12 said, we're open to that. That's where it stands. They don't have a mediator. They don't have a timeline. They don't have, they have to agree on a mediator. They have to agree on some parameters of the mediation. The Mountain West knows that there's a hearing coming up on March 25th where a judge will either say this case that the Pac-12 has filed has no merit and throwing it out, or the judge says it moves forward. That is a leverage point. That's a point of inflection for the Mountain West. They will never have more leverage than they have on March 24th when they are trying to negotiate with the Pac-12. Most people think the judge is going to say, hey, let's move on. At that point, if they move on, the Pac-12 has got an enormous amount of leverage in this negotiation. So, time is the enemy of the Mountain West. I do have a source, in the Mountain West Conference, a president in the Mountain West Conference who told me that what they would like to do is they would like to settle this. They would like to not have a bunch of ongoing, legal fees. Mountain West needs to get on with its life. The Pac-12 needs to get on with its life. The ideal thing would be to settle this in a way that works for both sides and let everybody kind of go off and do their thing. And then I followed up and I said, would the Mountain West, would they waive the entire $55 million poaching penalty if the Pac-12 agreed not to take UNLV? Like, could that be part of a mediation? And the president said, not sure that that's on the table at this point. Pac-12 has not seemed interested in any kind of merger. I asked about that as well. Would the Pac-12, could we get a merger out of this mediation? No. The Mountain West, I think, is far more open to some kind of merger that would have given like a relegation promotion model for the top teams. But the Pac-12 just does not seem interested. The presidents in the New World Pac-12 want to do their own thing. They want to be the best of the West or the best of the rest or whatever you want to call it. And so I really think the next couple of weeks here, Puck, as we crawl towards March Madness starting, media rights deal probably getting done here. And then March 25th, this court date, do they get a deal? Do they get a settlement? Or does the Pac-12 feel so confidently about its position that it says, yeah, we'll mediate with you on March 26th when you are all out of leverage? But that is where this stands. I think the reports that like mediation was happening or is going to happen imminently, way overblown. The Mountain West is kind of saying, hey, we'd like to talk. We'd like to do this in the next couple of weeks. And the Pac-12 is going, we'd have to pick a mediator. We'd have to pick a format. We'd have to pick a time. I think the Pac-12 is going to slow play this.
So mediation has not started. It hasn't even gotten there. It's just mediation. That the Mountain West would like to do it.
On Friday, Pac-12 Mountain West president told me that they would like to do it. They're making there's no shame in them saying they approached the Pac-12 or their attorneys approached the Pac-12. But I had an outside attorney look at it and I said, okay, why now? What's going on? Mm-hmm. And this is an attorney who deals with antitrust lawsuits. And he said, there's an inflection point, March 25th. He says, if that judge says there's merit to this case, that the Pac-12's got all the leverage and it's probably going to be successful in that lawsuit. If the judge throws it out, then the Mountain West is. And so the idea being that, if you're the Pac-12, you already feel like you're on the hook for $55 million. Only a good thing can happen on March 25th. So if we're playing poker, Puck, I'm the Pac-12. I'm going to slow play this. And I think time is my friend.
Yeah. So they're not going to do anything.
If I'm the Pac-12, I will sit down, but I'm going to wait and see what that judge says. Yeah.
It seems like just reading and listening to you and reading what you've wrote, that it seems like the Mountain West is, I don't know if the correct word is panicking or is just maybe a little bit concerned or desperate right now as we get.
I think they're concerned about their existence. I think there is a problem if they lose this lawsuit completely. And I think if I'm the Mountain West, I'm awfully incentivized to come to a settlement, get as much money as I can, and ensure survival in front of this court date on March 25th. And if I'm the Pac-12, you don't necessarily want to put the Mountain West out of business because, that's, you don't want that, but it's not good for the ecosystem.
Yeah.
But what you want maybe not to pay $55 million and to get a reduction on the poaching or the exit fees. Those exit fees of $17 million. I was also told on Friday that the Mountain West sort of expects that those exit fees are going to come down from $17 million. Now, how far down is a negotiation? But typically, you see those exit fees negotiated down. Nobody pays the full fee, Puck. So Boise State and the other 4 Mountain West teams that left are probably thinking they're going to pay 10 or 12 million, not 17, in exchange for being let out of that conference. But if you're the Pac-12, you'd like to pay the least amount of money. That leaves you with the more money to go after who you want. Is that Memphis? Is that Tulane? Is that UNLV? Gives you a lot more money to go after who you want. But if the Mountain West, part of their motivation here, Puck, is absolutely ensuring that the worst case scenario doesn't come out of this, where they lose all the money, they lose all the exit fees, and suddenly they've got members running for the hills like the Pac-12 had.
What's UNLV's perspective on all this? You got a chance to infiltrate that at all?
A little bit. And, I'll just speak in general terms because, again, here's the other thing the Mountain West would bring up. The Mountain West would say, hey, we've got a grant of rights signed for 26 and beyond. And that's cool. But if you don't have the money to back that up, I don't know what you have. You have a piece of paper. And so, they signed those schools to be part of the league by giving them a large chunk of the exit fees and the poaching penalties. And if those don't exist, suddenly you've got an unhappy membership. UNLV, I am told, was not included in the initial bite by the Pac-12 for a couple of reasons. We touched on this, I think, last time, but here's the Cliff Notes version. There was some concern because UNLV's president was part of the executive board of the Mountain West. There was some concern that if UNLV was included, that president would have a duty and an obligation to inform the rest of the membership that, hey, these schools are leaving. And so there was a little apprehension there. There was also a little bit of a belief that Nevada and UNLV had to be tied at the hip. We know now that's not true. And then thirdly, there seemed to be some some risk allergy on UNLV's part, that they were more afraid of the risk than Boise State, San Diego State, and Fresno State, and Utah State, and Colorado State. That there just seemed to be a little less appetite for taking a leap and betting on themselves. And I find that ironic, with Vegas and the mentality that Vegas has. But it may prove that the gamblers in Vegas are gamblers, and the casino isn't playing a very conservative game. I mean, that is just the mentality of Vegas.
Well, it's going to be exciting. I mean, the next few weeks, right? Because we think this is all going to come to a head by the end of this month.
Yeah. I mean, I think you and I have talked about March 20th. I sent that as the over-under. And then you have the San Diego State AD saying end of the month. You did get, Octagon popped its head up. One of the VPs at Octagon did an interview. That's the media partner, the media consultant the Pac-12 hired. He popped his head up and said, hey, he's managing expectations, but he said, hey, we started from scratch. This wasn't like a renewal of a deal. And so he spun it positive, saying, hey, they've got a variety of things to offer to the marketplace. They can pretty much invent anything that a media partner wants because they're not bound by the structure of a prior deal. But it also sounded to me like they were not as close to a deal as J.D. Wicker, the AD at San Diego State, said just, a week or two ago.
It's gonna be fascinating. I can't wait to watch it all develop. I hope there's just, and I think for everyone, right? I hope there's just a resolution, sooner rather than later, including yourself, so you can stop working so hard. All right?
Yeah, it's gonna happen. I mean, and I love it. I mean, I think there's some palace intrigue going on all corners. It's fun to cover it. It's interesting to talk, learn more about this, and I love sharing it with people.
Yeah, you got to get excited when you've got a scoop, huh? That's got to energize you, right?
Yeah, it is. But part of it is just understanding the picture. And so it's why I'm talking to presidents and league officials and commissioners and communicating with these people constantly, because it's a moving target and it changes. And I will not be surprised if, there is some kind of settlement. I don't think this lawsuit gets to the end, but the question is, when does that happen and who does it benefit timing wise? And I think the more time that drags on here, the more beneficial it is to the Pac-12, because the Mountain West does not want to hemorrhage cash and have their league be threatened.
The game has changed so much. I want to get in the weeds just real quickly from a investigative reporter's perspective. Like when you've had a big story in the past, like maybe 10, 15 years ago, when the game was very different than it is today, when you got to get it out as fast as you can because of social media and all that. When you had a bigger story where it had to be, vetted by a couple of different sources, your editor had to look at it, and you had to sleep on it. How nerve-wracking is that someone else is going to scoop what you already have?
100%. You're waking up in the morning, you're watching the 11 o'clock news to see if the TV stations are going to get it.
Yeah.
You're first thing in the morning, you are checking all the competing websites, and you just kind of breathe a sigh of relief when no one has it. And there's a moment where you hit, publish. That is, it's a finish line of sorts. But, it's what's interesting is, I try to be like, I want to be accurate. I want to be sourced. I don't want to mislead people. I want what I'm reporting to be, something you can't get anywhere else. And I want it to be sourced from the horse's mouth. And it's why, look, I don't think it's any secret. Like, I've had contact with both commissioners, the Mountain West and the Pac-12. I want good information out there, good, solid information. I think I have the picture of what is going on at this moment, and it could change in 2 hours. But that's what I'm in this for. And I'd always feel like, as long as you are sourced and you have it from multiple sources and you're giving, the rush to get it out can take a little bit of a back seat to it. But it's still a matter of, when something, Puck, can I get it out in an hour? Can I get it out in a half an hour? What's reasonable to do that? And there's no overnight anymore.
No, not anymore. Hey, I got an idea. I'll pitch you on an idea if you want it. There is a high school baseball recruit in our state. Maybe you already know this.
Okay.
His name is Xavier Nyans. Have you heard of that?
No.
He's Mount Vernon High School, which is, I don't know, what is that, an hour north of Seattle, hour plus north of Seattle. He is a third baseman. Keith Law just came out with his baseball rankings for the draft. He's the 29th prospect in the Major League Baseball draft. Some feel he'll be a first-round pick, maybe even a top 20 pick. He's committed, I believe, to Oregon State. And there's a kid also from Puyallup High School by the name of Mason Pike, who I think is also committed to Oregon State. And he has been, some think that he could possibly get in the first round as well. So there you go. You potentially could have 2 first-round picks out of the state, both committed to Oregon State. How
you know
about
what's
that?
interesting?
Just get the chainsaw, John.
You know what's interesting is Oregon State is getting those guys. Those guys used to get drafted, sign, go off and play pro ball right out of high school. They're not doing that anymore. And Oregon State's got, a couple of guys that were high picks, first-round pick, pitcher who's a freshman at Oregon State. Mitch Canham is getting those guys to go to school because they know they can go to school and be Adley Rutschman. They can go to school and be Travis Bazana. Like, when you have 2 first-round overall draft picks in a series of like 4 years, you got the number 1 pick in the draft, twice. It's a great selling point, and they're competing as an independent right now.
It's amazing to me. And again, for people who don't know this, and I don't know if you've interviewed her, but then on the flip side of it, I just know of her because of my daughter's in gymnastics. But like, they've got one of the best, and arguably one of the best gymnasts in the country. She's an Olympian.
Jade Carey.
Jade Carey. It's remarkable to see, and it's cool to see.
I saw her. I was in Corvallis because my daughter goes to school there. She's a senior there, and we're in a restaurant, like night of a gymnastics meet.
Yeah.
The meet. We're in a restaurant. Jade Carey walks in, and my daughter elbows me and goes, "That's Jade Carey." And I looked at her and I said, "Oh yeah, I've had her on radio." She's almost shy, and and just wants to be a student, and just kind of cool to see her kind of bebopping around campus, and it's no big deal. But there probably isn't a more decorated athlete in the history of that campus. Maybe Terry Baker winning a Heisman, but maybe got an Olympic gold medalist out there performing in your gymnastics team.
I'm sure you're keeping an eye on it. So maybe your thoughts on it. The what's currently going on in Washington D.C. Not the tariffs, but like the NIL subcommittee meetings. What's the goal of this? The plan coming out of this that they were trying to solve?
They want the guardrails that everybody's talked about. Everybody wants guardrails, but nobody's quite sure what works. And then if you're an athlete, you don't necessarily want to have something imposed on you, and you haven't collectively bargained. And so they're trying to figure out what's legal, what they can put in place with guardrails. Meanwhile, you've got some states, like the state of Oregon has introduced some legislation saying that NIL payments should be private. You shouldn't have to make them public. Well, that flies in the face of everything that the NCAA and people in DC are saying. And so I think there's going to be a battle ahead where players are going to want to have a voice and a say in what should be public, what shouldn't be public. But how do you police it if everything's private? That's not possible.
No. Let's go non-college sports right now, because I just saw your recent tweet with the images and the renderings. Where are we at with Major League Baseball going to Portland? The pictures that you have, go to John Canzano BFT on Twitter and Blue Sky. You can see it. Beautiful. I mean, it looks like just a beautiful ballpark. You and I have talked about this before. I think baseball, because of Oregon State and even what Oregon has done, it would thrive in Oregon. It would thrive in Portland. They've got youth tournaments there all the time in that city. I think it would be a big hit. Where are we at right now with that?
Yeah, and look, I talked to Mark Wasikowski, the Oregon coach, yesterday, and he kind of said, hey, look, you've got Oregon State, University of Portland, all high-level baseball teams. He goes, Major League ballpark in Portland, like the idea being, how about a tournament there? How about a preseason tournament that could take place, or a midseason tournament that could take place in Portland? But 32,000-seat stadium, translucent, retractable roof. You hit a home run to right field, it ends up in the Willamette River. I mean, awesome. They've got it. They've got the stadium. They've got the right piece of property. They've done everything right. The question now is for Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball. He came out a couple months ago and he said that he wants to go from 30 to 32 teams. He wants one team in the Eastern time zone, one in the West. He wants to get rid of the 5-team divisions that they currently have. He wants to go to 8 4-team divisions. He wants that balance. The question is, what's the timing for it? You can do everything right as a city. They've got city leaders somehow behind this now. They've got the state leaders behind it. They testified yesterday in front of the state legislature asking for some public money, which I think they're going to get. But the idea is, like, look, they can fund the stadium. They can build this thing. They got, they have this beautiful piece of property. They've got the renderings. They have the investment to this part. They've got an ownership group that's sitting in the wings. But if Rob Manfred doesn't come in and say, hey, we're expanding, and we're expanding in 28, expanding in 29, whatever that year is. And, hey, one city in the East and the West, and here are the candidates. If he doesn't say that, the group is going to look like it stalled or it failed. And I keep telling people, you can do everything right. And if that opportunity doesn't present itself, you're not getting a team. So what I think Manfred needs to do is at some point, now he leaves office in 29. He says he wants to have the expansion plan set by the time he leaves. Great. Here we are. You got 4 years to do this. Can you make a visit to Portland? Can you check out the site? Can you go to Salt Lake City? Because I think it's Portland against Salt Lake City. And then it's probably Nashville in the East. So can you go see these places? And can you give a nod to somebody? Because what Portland would like to do is put a shovel in the ground in 2027. That's when they're ready to build in 27, they said yesterday. And what they're trying to get, it's called a jock tax. How do you feel about that, by the way, the term jock tax?
I'm offended.
Yeah, it feels like, but it also feels like something you could cure with antifungal cream.
Yeah, Yeah, right. You got that itch down there. It's a burning jock tax.
What you do for your jock tax?
Yeah.
Anyway,
rub some ointment on it.
The point being, they're asking for public money in this way. They're saying, hey, look, we're going to tax the ball players' salaries. We're going to tax the visiting players' salaries with a state income tax. We're going to tax the executives who run the team. The money garnered from that tax, the payroll tax on the players who visit, players who play there, will create $150 million towards the stadium. This money does not exist unless there's a team. Be clear. There's no, the schools aren't going to suffer. The roads aren't going to suffer because of this. But there's still some people who go, no public money. And so you're wrestling with that.
You deal with it up here. You'll just, they hear taxes and they think it's going to be on them.
Yeah.
So they'll just never, you can never kind of change their opinion. All right. Last thing real quick for you, the wrapping up the Ian Rappaport and Jordan Schultz fight that took place in a Starbucks in Indianapolis. Have you ever got into it with anyone?
Yeah, I get into it with people. You have good professional disagreements.
Yeah, okay? But I mean, has anyone gotten in your face?
Yeah.
A media member?
Yeah.
Really?
I've had disagreements. People don't like if you look, and I'm in the opinion business, not just reporting. First, they don't like if you beat them on a story. Second, they may not like what your opinion is. My thing is I have great respect for everybody who does this job, right? If you do this job, you do it right. You're a hardworking person. Sure. It doesn't mean we have to agree. Yeah. And I think part of what makes sports great is the fact that it's not war. It's not the economy. It's not politics. We can disagree on things and it's okay. We can, at the end of it, we can have a civil disagreement about it. But I have encountered some people who take it personally if you report something different than them, or if you look at their reporting and you go, I don't think so. That's not what I'm hearing. Yeah. They get upset by it. So I've had some things. I've never been in a Starbucks and had it happen. I've been on a plane and had it happen one time.
Really?
Yep. Had another media member on a plane because I said
names. Who what? I've got a great guess who I think it is.
I've had another media member on a plane.
Go.
I
can't go the nicest person in the world.
I've had someone at an NBA arena come up to me. They didn't like what I reported about something, but mainly, and then Twitter's full of it. I mean, if
I wouldn't fight you, by the way, I would not get in your face.
You just, Twitter has got it too. And so everybody's a warrior on Twitter. So my thing is this, look, I've got my sources. I feel good about my reporting, even if the Pac-12 and the Mountain West end up in a completely different place, I know on Friday, this is what they were saying. This is where their heads were. I know where they are today. That's the business I'm in. And I think too, I do respect everybody who does the job, particularly if you've been at it, as long as you have, Puck, you're doing something right that they haven't chased you off yet.
Not yet, but it's happening. It's going to come soon. And I'm going to lead the escort on the way out. Yeah, take me out. I want to be out anyways. Just take me with you and throw me in the river. All right. Enjoy the show today. Go check out John's work up at johncanzano.com. Listen to his radio show, The Bald Faced Truth, down there in Portland, Oregon. Go follow him on Twitter and Blue Sky at John Canzano BFT. Until next week, John, we'll talk to you then.
Thanks, Ben.
There he is, John Canzano, johncanzano.com. All brought to you by Zeke's Pizza. Check out the latest episode up on YouTube. When you're there, please subscribe to the channel. Also, always up on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast as part of the Daily Puck Drop. And, of course, always up at pucksports.com. All right, hey, what the puck? We got some breaking news. And, God, it's the breaking news show of record. It continues. Hey, what the puck is brought to you by Restoration One in North Seattle. Your restoration company lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when those damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com. North Seattle franchise. Proud sponsors. Long time here of the Daily Puck Drop and pucksports.com. All right, what do we got? I need a breaking news sounder. I'll work on that. Okay, I'll work on that. The Seattle Seahawks have made a flurry of moves, which if you're watching or listening to this right now, you're like, yeah, wait, we knew about it like 20 minutes ago. Why didn't you get to it? Yeah, all right. You know what? F you. The Seahawks have released George Fant, Rayshon Jenkins, Draymond Jones, my favorite, Roy Robinson Hess. The team announcing today, reading from Bobby C. The moves will save just over $26 million against the cap. Oh, actually, excuse me, $27 million against the cap. So, freeing up some money. This was not a surprise of what Seattle was going to do, and I think most people saw that. Now, the fact that they did these guys together tells me they are going to announce. Well, they'll announce Lockett separately. And right, and they should. You know, Tyler Lockett's earned the right to not be, I'm not being disrespectful to these guys, but to be thrown in with, because you know they got families and careers and all that, and they'll land on their feet. They're good players. They got plenty more time left playing the NFL. But you know, Lockett deserves his own, I guess, release announcement. But George Fant, Rayshon Jenkins, Draymond Jones, Roy Robinson Harris. Again, I can't say it without doing Roy Robinson Harris. All have been released to save over $27 million. Tyler Lockett will happen at the end of this week with free agency starting next week. And then we'll see where Seattle goes with that. Where do they spend that money? They were over the cap anyways. They needed to get under the cap. So now they'll point their attention to, two figures. One would be DK and one would be Geno Smith. And no doubt we'll start with Geno Smith first and try to get something done with Geno. And what will that look like? Is it simply going to be a restructure, or are we talking about a full-on extension? And I would just warn them not to do something crazy where you really are committing a lot of money to him. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth to do. But we'll see how aggressive they are in that pursuit there of Geno Smith. But it does clear up some space, clears up some money. Probably Ryan do something differently with Chenna Nwosu. Did I see Fant in there? No. So we'll see if they can alter his contract at all. But again, none of these moves were a surprise. How aggressive will they be in free agency next week? Will they attack or target Dahlman, in which we've talked a lot about on this show, especially Rob Staten. Rob brought it up. Rob Staten, SeahawksDraftBlog.com, who we will talk to tomorrow. Will that be one of their number one targets next week? I'll say this. I would rather them solve Dahlman if that is really their target. I would rather them get Dahlman done before they do anything else with any of the, whether it be Geno or DK, because they have got to get better at that position. They just have to. They got to get better across the offensive line, but specifically at center. So, again, if I don't scout the guy. I don't know any. Listen, I know what other people have wrote about him. I don't have a scout's eye. But if they have targeted him as their number one guy in free agency, and other teams are as well, then go get him. Go get him right now. Free up this money. Go get him. Make him the priority over the quarterback right now. And I know that sounds back asswards. I get it. But they have got to shore up that offensive line and then address it also in the draft coming up here in a couple of months. All right, that is Hey, What the Puck. Again, breaking news with the Seahawks releasing several players today to free up about $27 million. George Fant, Rayshon Jenkins, Draymond Jones, Roy Robinson Hayes. $27 million. And again, expect probably Tyler Lockett to happen sometime later this week to free up even more money. Hey, What the Puck brought to you by Restoration One in North Seattle. It's your restoration company lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Let them take care of you when something's going bad to your commercial property or your residential property. They're going to take care of you. One-stop shop, great customer service, just great leadership all the way around. Locally owned and operated, that's important as well. Always, always important. Make them your first call when damages do affect your property. 206-817-8917. Please visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. Again, Puck's Posse membership, $5 a month. Also get a discount if you sign up for a year. Get all of the free content that we have posted up there, including Dane Brugler, which episode 2 came out yesterday. So to everyone watching today, Danny Kelly earlier today, also John Canzano, thank you for watching and listening. Thank you to all our sponsors today and always, Limback Lumber, Zeke's Pizza for Johnny Cans, Georgetown Brewery. Go please check out their new tavern beer at your local bar. And, of course, the website, georgetownbeer.com, and the brewery itself. And, of course, a longtime friend of the program, Restoration One of North Seattle. Today's Daily Puck Drop. You can find it up on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel there. Also find the Daily Puck Drop on your favorite podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and, of course, always up at pucksports.com. And again, when you're at pucksports.com, top of the webpage, sign up to become a Puck's Posse member. Trying to say that really fast. $5 a month. Get a discount for a year. You get the full Ryan Divish podcast experience all baseball season long, and our NFL Draft Countdown coverage with the great Dane Brugler from The Athletic. Episode 2 is out right now. Sign up today at pucksports.com. All right, Tuesday's show in the books. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Wednesday. Ryan Divish, Seattle Times. Rob State, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Until then, as always, promise to be better.
No shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah. I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for? We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!